I've been working from home for quite a while now, as I'm sure many of you also have. And the other day I managed to drop a drink on my laptop and completely ruin the keyboard. Unfortunately, but fortunately for you I guess, that means a 110-mile trip to the office to get it sorted out. And it is a very chilly morning. It's 5:30 on a Thursday. It is -3, and this is going to be a really good real-world winter range test of the MG ZS EV. This morning I'm driving from Gloucester to Welwyn Garden City. It's 110 miles almost exactly from door to door. I was quite surprised. This is the first time I've done a long journey in this car, and I asked on the Owners Club Facebook group, it's going to be cold. Am I going to make it? Is it viable? And the amount of people that actually said, no, you're going to struggle if you're trying to do that without stopping to charge. It's going to be a struggle. So the good old guessometer this morning is showing 133 miles in normal mode with a full charge. Obviously charged at home overnight. And I assumed that that's fairly accurate, and actually, if I'm a little bit careful with the loud pedal on the way there, that'll be fine. That'll get me there with 20 odd miles in reserve, and we should be all right. But it turns out the cold really does affect. It affects all electric cars, but I've seen a lot of people talking about their reduced winter range in their ZS EV. So I might well need to plan a charging stop on the way there. So I'm just setting up the sat nav at the moment on Apple CarPlay, of course, because I'm really not keen on the built-in sat nav, as you know. Some of you seem to have taken a great dislike to the fact that I don't particularly like the built-in sat nav. I'm not sure why. It seems to be a insult to your very being that I don't like the built-in sat nav or navigation system or infotainment system in the ZS EV, but there we are. When quite so many people said, oh, you might actually struggle with your range on that journey, I actually thought about taking our i3 instead, because it's the range extender model, and with a little splash of fuel in there, even though it's only the 60 amp hour range extender. With the electric and battery, I would have got there quite comfortably. I can charge at work, and obviously would have had to fill up the fuel tank on the way home to get home if I was using both rather than stopping to charge. But I thought it would be a good idea to give the ZS an outing and see what it's actually capable of. I'd be quite surprised if it can't do 110 miles on a charge. I mean, 67% of its advertised WLTP range. Like I say, I know electric cars have a reduced range in the winter, and I'm not under any illusion about that, but I expected maybe a little bit better than only 2/3 of the advertised range. We're going to find out the hard way today whether it'll actually do it or not. I've got many of you telling me that it definitely won't do it, and that I'd be silly for even trying. And one person even pulled the whole, the last thing the emergency services need is a cold driver at the side of the road thing. So yeah, okay, I'll try my best not to single-handedly bring down the NHS, shall I? But valid points. Nobody wants to run out of fuel on a motorway, obviously. I'm not stupid enough to actually push it that hard. If it seems like it's going to run out, then I will stop and charge. And I've already looked ahead and planned some charging stops that will hopefully see me right. All available options are networks I've never used before, so that's great. There seems to be a big bias towards BP Pulse in the part of the country that we're heading to, so I have downloaded their app so that you don't need to tell me off for turning up at a charging point without an app this time, because I've already downloaded it. But I am hopeful we're not going to need it, but I will need to moderate my driving to try and make sure we make it. Got the old auto main being unavailable, front camera blocked warnings on the dash this morning. Very common when this car is a bit cold and a little bit steamed up. The windscreen is clear. I used the heater to clear the windscreen. I'm not driving around with a little letterbox rubbed out of the windscreen because I don't want to use the heater. It is clear, but it's obviously not clear enough, and it's not happy with the front camera. So speed sign recognition not working this morning. I'm guessing maybe some of the autonomous emergency braking type stuff. I don't know. It uses the radar on the front. I don't know exactly what the front camera is actually used for. I know the speed sign recognition. Auto main beam, obviously, although I don't use it because the auto main beam on this car is a rather terrible implementation. I won't apologise for talking about things I don't like about this car. A few members of the owners club trying to lynch me. Someone posted a link to one of my videos, and the video about the 3-month ownership experience, and yes, the title's a little bit clickbaity and the thumbnail was a bit clickbaity, but I don't think I was particularly harsh in what I actually said in the video. So if you're reacting to a title and some thumbnail action, then I guess it's working, because at the end of the day, you know, that's kind of how YouTube works. If you want to get views, you maybe need to be a little bit out there. Nobody's going to click on a video that says 1,500 miles in and everything's surprisingly okay and a little bit boring. You know, it's just not going to attract views. So I make no apologies for a little bit of clickbait, but I do seem to have rubbed some people up the wrong way, and for that I do apologise. I'm not here to, you know, piss people off, but I'm also not going to sugarcoat everything and tell you that this car is the best thing since sliced bread if there's things about it I don't like. So I think you're going to get the best of both worlds, and I'm not keen on sugarcoating everything, and I think you should get an honest view of the world. A lot of salt on the roads this morning. For those of you banging on about underbody corrosion, I should be a bit worried about it dissolving by the time I get to Welland this morning, but I'm sure we'll be okay. There was a notion that, you know, you're pushing a little bit on range, but as long as you don't use the heating, you'll be alright. I don't know where that comes from. I think that's the mentality of people that, you know, I've been driving electric cars for a while, and perhaps started off driving something like an old Leaf, like the Leaf that I bought for 2,600 quid that could barely get itself off the driveway. And if you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. But that's a car where you need to worry about using the heating, and you know, you're not going to be driving around with the heating turned up and stuff. But there's no way. I mean, it's -3. I'm not gonna stick another layer on and drive about freezing cold and shivering. It's not happening. If it means I've got a charge en route, it's a bit disappointing, but so be it. I'm not. There's no way I'm driving about. I've seen pictures of your proper hardcore EV types with short range cars, and they've got blankets over the legs and stuff like that. It's like, nah, you've got a heater, you've got heated seats, use them. Now, the first part of this journey is going to be pretty arduous on the battery and the range, I think, because we are heating. We've got 3 little blobs of red. If you've got a ZS EV, you'll know what that means. I'll try and put a picture of the HVAC screen on this screen now so you can see what I mean. So the heater's sort of, it's not all the way up. I guess if people often talk about it like having a 3-bar electric fire under the dash, so we were probably on 2 bars rather than 1. I've got the heated seats on. I've got the air conditioning on because I feel like it doesn't use that much power, and it dries the air out enough to stop the windows from steaming up and stuff. The plan will be as it gets a bit warmer in here. Also, I've got a fairly thick jumper on, which I'm sure one of you is going to comment about my fashion sense. Not that I particularly care, but you know, whatever. Starting to feel a little bit like JM. If you're a much bigger YouTuber than me, JM on cars, he has some funky shirts, and people don't like to comment on them, good and bad. I don't know what my fashion sense has got to do with you, but there we go. Bit grumpy this morning. It's 5:30 in the morning, and I've got a long journey in a car that might not make it. So. Oh, and I know. I should have bought a diesel. Yeah, definitely. That 840 mile range would have come in pretty handy right now. So we're 33.8 miles in now. I've turned the heater down a touch, turned the heated seats off, and we're on the current journey screen. We're showing 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which I think makes us fall a little bit short of target. Still showing 103 miles of range. I've dropped down into eco modes. It's 103 miles down from 143, so we're obviously the gasometer is falling a little bit faster than the journey is progressing, suggesting we're obviously consuming a bit more energy, and that's not surprising. It is still very cold. It's still -3, but I don't think we're doing too badly, but I think it might be a little bit tight. We'll see how it goes on. The charging stop that I had planned is at 73 miles ish, So that would gives us plenty of buffer. So if we are using a bit more than we intended, then charging there'll be plenty of room to stop and charge. I'm not going to conk out on my way to a charger. I daren't push it any further because of where the chargers are on this journey. I'm actually just passing the point where I did this journey in the i3 back in September. A couple of times I've actually been in the office in that weird sort of break we had between lockdowns. I took the i3 in one day and tried not to use the petrol. I thought I'll try and do it all on electric, even though it's a 60 amp hour i3. So I just past the point where there's a Genie Point rapid charger. I'll put the Zap Map thing on the screen for you to see, and had to stop there to charge in order to managed to make it there on electric power only, which is pretty good really. 110 miles with only one charge in a 60 amp hour i3. It definitely wouldn't do that now in this cold, but in the summer it was certainly pretty capable, and it surprised me. It was good, but that charger was a bit of a godsend, because this route isn't the best for charging. So we're on the M40 now, 58.6 miles in, 52 miles to go, or 51 and a bit miles to go, showing 73 miles of range remaining. The battery indicator thing's about halfway, although the weird graticule thing obviously takes I don't know why I don't have a battery percentage indicator, is what I'm saying, but the sort of weird battery fuel gauge thing is about halfway. It's looking quite good. I don't want to speak too soon. I mean, I'm sticking to 60 on the motorway, fast enough to get out of the way of the trucks and stuff and not be holding anybody up, but not so fast that I'm going to drain the battery quickly. I don't particularly want to have to stop and charge, so I think it's a fairly sensible thing to do. Average speed so far is 42 miles per hour. I think that's fairly fair enough. It was all sort of 60 and 50 mile an hour single carriageway roads I was on up until now, and then through like 30 mile an hour zones and stuff. So I think a 40 odd mile an hour average speed is fair enough, I think. Sure, it's a bit slower than some would go, but I'm not in any particular rush to get to work, I'm not going to lie. And it's the problem I have as well. If you stop the charge too early, the speed's going to be so slow that I'm going to waste time sitting waiting for a rapid charger to dribble some electrons into the tank. I'm sure I'm using all the right terminology there. Some of you are going to be fuming, but the higher state of charge you have when you stop the charge, the slower the charging is. So I don't particularly want to stop too early. Obviously, it's always that kind of that balance between stopping too early and the not. So I'm just passing junction 4 now. 72 miles in, 57 miles remaining on the gasometer. 38 miles to go. I'm going to go for it, I think. This could prove to be a mistake, but I'm fairly comfortable with average miles per kilowatt hour is up to 2.8 now, which is beyond what we need to get there. So I'm fairly confident we're going to make it. I'm sure I'll eat those words if it all goes wrong and I end up on the hard shoulder, but I think we've got enough in reserve. I'm fairly confident. I think that going to run us down to around sort of 20-ish miles. That's before all the old shit lights come on and it starts flashing and going mental. So I think that's fair enough. I'd often run a petrol or diesel car that low. I'm the guy with someone borrows a car from me, they moan about the fact that there's never any fuel in it. So I'm all right with that. I think we'll be okay. Fingers crossed. Let me know in the comments what you would do at this stage. Would you have stopped at junction 4 to get a charge? I think we must still be well over 30% battery remaining. I've got 3 of the little dashes on the fuel gauge, so it'll be over 30, maybe 35%, something like that. I can't remember what they all mean, but would you stop at this point and get a slow charge from a rapid? I think we'll be alright, but let me know in the comments what you think. What would you do? So I'm on the M25, 19 miles to go, and I've run out of screen wash, which is, there's no indicator in this car telling you the screen wash is low, it seems. So we'll need to I'll need to go to one of those horrible petrol stations later to get some screen wash. Ugh. 35 miles of remaining range showing on the dash. 18 miles remaining to my destination. I think we'll be alright. I think we're on the verge of it starting to moan at me about the available battery, but just the first lot, hey, the battery's getting low, you might want to think about charging. Normally comes on about 30-ish miles to go, so but I think we're doing okay. But yeah, run out of screen wash. Oh, there we go. State of charge low, please charge is the first warning. So that is when the battery gets to 20%, I believe. So just a quick state of the nation. I'm at a petrol station 2 miles away. Had to get some screen wash for some much needed clarity. We still got 18 miles showing on the gasometer, obviously with 2 miles to go. State of charge low, come on. It is -2 now, so it's getting a little bit warmer. And we've done 108.4 miles, average 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour, average speed 44 miles per hour, and like I say, 18 miles of range remaining. So the last 2 miles shouldn't be too eventful, I don't think. I just find it strange coming to a petrol station now, because you got to find somewhere away from the pumps to park. I wouldn't want to be accused of blocking access to a petrol pump with my electric car, given how much I moan about people with petrol cars doing that at chargers. So having to find somewhere to dump your car if you just want to run into the shop to get a drink or some screen wash
onto the S6129 towards the 1000
can often be a little bit of a pain. They don't often design petrol forecourts with that in mind, that some people might not actually want to buy fuel. I guess that's going to have to change as time goes on, but then maybe we'll see them replacing pumps with chargers, you know, one day. Not been a bad journey really. It's quite a good car list to drive sort of long distance, comfortable. Suspension's a little bit soft on some of the, you know, twistier A roads and stuff, but certainly on the motorway the ride's good. MG Pilot's good as well. So that's both adaptive cruise and it keeps you in lane as well. So sort of semi-autonomous driving. Been unheard of any other car at this kind of price point, and it certainly takes a bit of the labour out of driving on the motorway. I do like it a lot. It can help you as well if you are trying to keep your speed down just a little bit. It's definitely, it can help you if you've got a little bit of a heavy right foot like I do. I find that the range estimate on the old gasometer seems to get more accurate as the battery runs down. So at the lower end, it seems to be a lot more realistic than at the higher end. So it's quite interesting that. I guess, I mean, it's a hard one because obviously when you see a figure on the dash of, you know, 140 or 160 miles, it might fill you with a bit of sort of false confidence. But the one bit where you really need it to be accurate is when you're running out, right? To stop you from actually running out and ending up stuck at the side of the road. So I guess it's good that it firms up at the bottom end, but I do wish it could be a little bit more in touch with reality at the top end. Although we'll see when we actually get to my destination, we'll see just how it compares to what it started out as. It's definitely a little bit of a discrepancy between what it said the range would be and what it'll actually turn out to be, but I don't think it's too bad. And certainly not at any point really felt that, you know, this is uncomfortable and that I'd better charge, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm quite happy with that. It's £4.50 for 3 litres of screen wash in a petrol station that just stopped at. Unbelievable. It'll teach me not to be more prepared, I suppose. Always check your levels before you set off on a long journey, kids. So I think we can call that a success. We've got 16 miles showing on the dash, so I've just pulled into the car park. Thankfully there is a charger here I'm going to plug into and leave the car charging all day before I try and drive home again. This is 110.3 miles I've covered. Obviously the battery is low, but we've not got the dashes of doom or anything like that, so I'm quite happy with that. So I think that was quite a valuable real-world range test. So we're still falling a bit short of where we started out. That would give us a total of 126 to empty. A bit different to the sort of 133 or 143 in eco it was showing when I started the journey. But I don't think it's too bad. Let me know what you think in the comments. I expect a reduced winter range, so I'm not surprised. But maybe you might be surprised at just how much it has fallen, but quite glad we managed to get here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.